Chapter 6 The Classified Recruitment Begins Part 2. Life has been tough for Dmitry since birth. His mother passed away due to complications during his delivery, and 2 months later, his father died in an accident, leaving him an orphan. Reluctantly, Dmitry's mother's elder brother, Igor, took on the responsibility of caring for him. Igor had his own family with 2 daughters, who were older than Dmitry by 2 and 4 years. Despite not wanting to take on this responsibility, Igor knew that he was the official beneficiary of all the wealth left behind by Dmitry's parents, including money, the house and jewelry. Dmitry was unaware of the extent of his parents' financial legacy, as whenever he asked, his uncle would dismissively respond with, "Not much, Dmitry." This left Dmitry feeling at the mercy of his uncle and aunt, who took advantage of this situation and manipulated him to keep him subdued. Even as a child, Dmitry noticed the differential treatment he received compared to his cousins. Yet he felt grateful to his uncle and aunt for taking him in, despite their strictness and the denial of luxuries afforded to his cousins. Dmitry could clearly see the disparities in clothing, food, and educational opportunities, but chose not to question them. Deep down, he secretly longed for an escape from this situation, knowing he would have to wait at least another 5 years for freedom. However, when news of a confidential recruitment call from the White House aired on TV, Dmitry's hopes were raised. His uncle, watching the news with his daughters, encouraged his younger daughter to apply, ignoring Dmitry completely. Unable to contain his ambition, Dmitry finally mustered the courage to ask his uncle, "Uncle, can I apply too?" Igor looked at him sternly before laughing and teasing Dmitry, "You don't possess the qualities they're looking for. You are just a silly little boy." His aunt supported this sentiment, warning him not to consider applying. Despite their discouragement, Dmitry made a firm decision to apply secretly, believing he possessed the necessary qualities. Little did his uncle and aunt know that Dmitry would be one of the 8 selected members of the young team. CEO Dan bowed to the crowd of around 200 people, mostly belonging to the Tuva village, with the majority being Mongolians from the inner region of China. The small village was quickly becoming commercialized as a tourist destination, much to the dismay of some older residents, including CEO. Having lived there for 68 years, he secretly wished for tourists to stay away from the beautiful, unspoiled village. He knew from experience that visitors often disrupted the village, spreading modern culture, and inadvertently promoting greed and selfishness among the young residents. As a senior master of Chinese martial arts, CEO wanted to preserve the village's traditions for as long as possible. On the special occasion of the Dragon Boat Festival, CEO wanted to showcase the martial skills of his granddaughter, Liling Yu, to the original villagers. Liling had been raised by CEO since the age of 4, after losing her parents to an epidemic that also claimed the lives of many others in the village. CEO, along with a few survivors, had worked hard to rebuild the community. Taking Liling under his wing, he trained her in martial arts. At 15 years old, Liling adored her grandfather, who was not only her world and hero but also her mentor. Presently, CEO addressed the crowd, emphasizing the importance of martial arts and why it was valuable to everyone. Encouraged by the crowd, including a few foreign tourists, many young martial artists performed demonstrations of their skills. When it was Liling's turn, she looked to Seo, bowed, and delivered a mesmerizing demonstration that outshone the others. A young tourist, a popular YouTuber, eagerly captured her performance on his modern smartphone and high-tech camera. Little did Liling and her grandfather know that her video would soon go viral worldwide. After the demonstration ended, Liling and Seo began walking towards their hut. On their way, Runchu, a 16-year-old student of Seo, joined them. Looking at Seo, he announced in an excited voice, "Master, last night I saw the news." "Oh, come on, Runchu. News is just news. Why are you so excited about it?" Liling questioned him. "But this is special news. The White House is recruiting young people between the ages of 14 to 16 for a special project. And they can be from any country," Runchu explained with a spark in his eyes. "Master, I want to apply for it. Can you sign an acceptance letter for me?" Runchu asked in a begging tone. Having lost his parents in the epidemic too, he had no one else except his mentor Seo. "I must know all the details before that and make sure it is genuine," Seo expressed with concern. "Then we need to go to the city. We don't have a computer and internet connection here. Once we go to the city, we can visit a private computer center and see all the details," Runchu explained. "Runchu, we are in China. You simply cannot go to America to apply for the job," Liling said, expressing her innocence. "Oh, we don't have to go to America for that. They asked to apply online, that is using a Google form." Runchu looked at Seo expectantly as the deadline to apply was tomorrow. Seo stopped walking and asked, looking at Liling, "This seems like an interesting job, why don't you apply as well, Liling?" For a moment, Liling didn't know what to say. Then her eyes sparkled with brightness and she looked at her grandfather, whom she always addressed by his name, a liberty that no one else had. "Can I, Seo?" "Yes, you should if this is a genuine job. Let's go to the city," Seo smiled at her as she hugged him. At that time, Runchu didn't know that his master's granddaughter was going to be one of the finalists.